Hey, welcome to Proline, direct from Las Vegas, the longest-running sports handicapping show in America. I'm Dave Cokin, joined by Jim Feist. We're going to take a look ahead to the College Bowl Championship weekend, plus get to Week 13 of the NFL. First, Jim, if people subscribe to the channel, that's free, and they get great stuff for free as well.
Absolutely, Dave. Go to ProLineTV.com, click on the subscribe button. You'll get notifications on new videos, plus you'll be sent a code to get 7 days of my service absolutely free. That's ProLineTV.com.
All right, so let's take a look at our Proline poll question of the week, and a topic that everybody's been talking about who follows college football, and we've discussed it on the show over the past weeks. That's a few weeks. That's the college football playoff, and the systemic problem that's likely to happen this year with Ohio State probably getting in without even making it to their conference championship game. There is a bit of an issue there. So we asked our audience with this week's Proline poll question, how many teams do you feel should be in the college football playoff? The choices were 4, leave it as it is, 8, where the top 2 seeds get, or 6 rather, where the top 2 seeds get a first round bye, 8, or 16, where all the conference champions, even the smaller conference champions, get in and they have an at-large selection for the rest of them, and it's a long process when the results come up.
Well, it's a good question. What were the results? 59% of the audience voted 8 teams, and I agree with that, Dave. I think 8's the right number. I think we talked about it before. I thought you thought the same thing. You go to the NCAA basketball championship. That's probably the best system I can think of, right. But you can't do that with football. Do that in football. You can't do it. I mean, in basketball you could play every day. If you want, you can play 2 games a day. You can't do that in football. No. Injuries and all that other stuff going on. But I think 8 would be better. This controversy here with Penn State and Michigan and the conference championship and all that, I mean, it's a mess. Because it's always going to be a mess at the last teams that come in.
The problem. Here's the problem. When you get 8, you wouldn't have this particular issue because whoever wins the Penn State-Wisconsin game would be in.
Right.
And they deserve to be in. You win the Big Ten, you should be in. Ohio State shouldn't be in. And again, I've said this a few times. If you're asking me whether I think Ohio State belongs in terms of their ability on the football field, whether they're one of the 4 best teams, yes. Without question, yes. They are one of the 4 best teams. But they didn't win their conference, and they didn't even make it to their conference championship game. And if Penn State happens to win this weekend, that means Ohio State could end up getting in ahead of a team that they lost to in the regular season and ends up winning the Big Ten. I mean, at least if Wisconsin wins, now you got an argument because Wisconsin will be the champion, but Ohio State did go into Wisconsin and win in overtime earlier this season. So, but to me, if Penn State happens to win this game, there's no way Ohio State should be in this Final Four.
The reason we have a championship playoff system is to try to pick the best team at that time. You go through a whole season, starts in September.
But you got to win your way in.
You got to win your way in. However, teams in August and September and October are not the same teams that they end up now. So when you look at the NCAA championship for basketball, it's the teams that, not necessarily the team with the best record, it's the teams that are good then. Right. So if you go by that, the teams that are good right now, I'd have to consider USC.
Well, USC would be one of the top 4.
USC would be one of the best teams in the country.
But unfortunately, they don't get in. They're not in their conference championship game either.
No.
So to me, it's basically the same rationale. And I know people look at USC and say, well, they lost 2 games in, and also they get destroyed by Alabama. True enough, but I'll tell you right, USC might be the 2nd best team in the country right now.
Well, Alabama might destroy everybody they play, but that's a different ball game. But USC, I like USC a lot. But they're not going to be there.
No.
It's a flawed system. But you know what? If you go back a couple of years, it's a whole lot better than it was.
It's better than it was, but it's still we still end up with the same issue that we used to have this weekend, or once these games are done, which is a team that is getting voted in strictly on opinion. Opinion isn't supposed to matter. That's why if you go to 8, then all the conference champions, the major conference champions, look, I'd love to include the Mountain West and the Sun Belt and the AAC, but the fact is it's not basketball and they can't play every week, so you can't go that deep. 8, we get the major 5 conference champions are in, 3 at-larges, in which case nobody at all would be arguing about Ohio State or USC, and then you get yourselves a real playoffs. All right, we want to thank everybody for participating in this week's poll question, and remind you that we will post a new Proline poll question every Monday morning on our respective social media networks, and the results will be announced right here on this show.
And if you'd like to send us a suggestion for Proline poll questions, you can do that. Any questions about the selections or service packages, send direct message to Twitter or on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, and we'll get right back to you.
All right, so let's look at one of the games that does matter this weekend.
It does.
Clemson will be in the Final Four if they win this game against Virginia Tech, and they're a fairly substantial.
We're looking at 10 and a half, total 58. When you look at the stats of this game, I mean, they're so much better. I mean, in the stat department, they deserve to be a 10-point favorite, but it's a neutral site.
Virginia Tech's got nothing to lose.
They got nothing to lose. They're dangerous.
Yep.
They're coming on strong, and it's a tough spot to lay 10 points.
One thing to remember, Virginia Tech's coming off 6 really good quarters in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, they played a terrific second half at Notre Dame. They were down big in that game and ended up with the win. And they looked powerful against Notre Dame in the second half. No problems last week against Virginia in that rivalry game. They're much better than the Cavaliers, but they took care of business as well. And they're a very capable football team. So this isn't a walkover for Clemson by any means. They're a good-sized favorite. I don't have any argument with that, but I don't think it's going to be just a walk in the walk in the breeze. For the
I said
Tigers.
when you don't. I mean, it is a neutral site, so you're not looking at the home team here with all the crowd and all the other things that go with it. Neutral site. Basically, if this game then was in Clemson, they'd be a 13, 14-point favorite. That's a big number, 2 touchdown favorites.
That's a lot to give to a very capable Virginia Tech team.
It is. Usually in these kind of games, I look for the dog. I'm not saying I'm going to go that way, but it sure is tempting to take the, 10 points, 10, maybe even 11 by game time.
You would think there's going to be some points scored in this game as well.
Yeah, you would.
Although, when they meet, for those who like history, when they meet, 5 of the last 6 have gone under. And sometimes when it looks like a cinch over on paper, doesn't always play out that way.
Well,
especially in a playoff game.
The pressure on the, Clemson to get in the big playoff.
This is a playoff game for Clemson.
It is. It's part of their whole package.
Right.
They got to win this to get there and then have a chance to win the whole thing.
Of course, the good thing for Clemson is they've got a lot of experience in this because they made it to the championship game last year.
That's
so
right.
They've won big games when they've mattered under this administration, Coach Swinney and the players.
And they got Watson, who a lot of people thought was a Heisman Trophy winner.
Phenomenal last year.
Absolutely.
Almost won it by himself against Alabama.
That's right.
And he's shown himself to be a very good big game quarterback. This is probably, of all the games that are on the schedule this weekend, as far as championships, I'm not going to play them all, but I think this is the one I have the least amount of interest in playing. I think the number, to me, looks like it's about where it should be. If I had to play it, I think I'd probably take Virginia Tech and hope for the best.
You would lean to that in a situation like this. All the pressure is on Clemson. A lot to lose. The other team they're freewheeling. If you made this game 7,
well, that's a different story.
Then it's a different story. But when you're talking 10, you got a stopper number there, and you're might be looking at 11 by the time game.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I think the favorite will draw. We know the favorite's going to draw public money.
It will.
I'm not seeing where the sharp action thus far has shown on the dog.
Well, this thing did open 9.5, and it's up to 10 and a half everywhere.
But I think that's. I don't think that's.
That could be public.
Look, if you want to ask us any Vegas sports wagering questions, go to ProlineTV.com and drop us a line. Doesn't cost anything. And speaking of not costing anything, be sure to hit the subscribe button to get 7 days of action free.
And go to JimFeist.com for free stats, articles, videos, my fast facts, which are absolutely awesome for college basketball, and plays from the nation's top handicappers.
When we come back, we're going to look at Week 13 of the National Football League, including a big game featuring 2 teams with serious playoff hopes, the Bills, who have come on, and the Raiders, who plenty to talk about on the Raiders, so stay tuned. A couple of close calls last week before we look at the Bills and Raiders, we'll reflect on a couple of things that took place last week. And Matt Barkley looked pretty good for the Bears. A lot of line movement in that game once it was announced that Cutler was not going to play. It went from 2 to like 6.5.
I know.
And the Bears ended up covering, and actually,
they should have
if
won.
they had receivers who could catch the football, they would have won the game.
Oh, unbelievable drop in the end.
Man.
That's horrible.
Easy catches.
Maybe we could have cut that ball.
Well, I might have caught it, but it wouldn't have held on to it after I got hit. So it wouldn't have been a catch.
Well, that's true.
But Barkley played well.
He did.
And I think that
if
there was any possibility whatsoever of Cutler playing any more games as his Chicago Bear, they are now done. He's not going to be there next year. And I think they're going to go with what they've got. They'll have Hoyer. I think Barkley might have convinced some people that he deserves a longer look. And we'll see what he does down the stretch this season for the Bears. Look, sometimes it takes quarterbacks time to develop. We were talking about this before we started taping today. You go back to the old days. They're not that old, really, in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers sat for, 3 years?
Yeah.
He's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. There's something to be said for quarterbacks getting to sit and learn, and we're even seeing a little bit of that with Jared Goff, who, quite honestly, has looked pretty good since the Rams put him on the field.
First game, I wasn't that impressed, but last week I was very
he looked
impressed with
good.
how he played. Barkley, the same thing. Aaron Rodgers, the things are different now because they pay these guys so much money.
They got to play him right away.
They have to.
Yep.
They can't afford to sit them. And that's the stupidity of the system. You shouldn't be paying all this money or all that money to these unproven guys coming out of college, because college doesn't really develop you for the pros because the systems are different. And sometimes these guys just don't develop or can't acclimate themselves to the pro
Even if
system.
it's for a half season, I think there's benefit to letting guys sit. Now, I'm not saying that anything would be different with Tom Brady necessarily, but he did get to sit for half the season while Bledsoe was still the quarterback until Bledsoe got hurt. And I think rather than rushing quarterbacks in, sometimes that's the better move. Now, I don't think you can argue that Carson Wentz has had a great deal of success so far. So there's you can.
He's flattened out though. He's flattened out a little bit. But the team around him isn't that good either.
No, yeah. I thought the Eagles I had the Eagles pegged for last in the NFC East this season. I was surprised when they got out to such a good start. I was drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit, but I think they're going to end up last in that division.
I feel that way too.
All right, so let's look at the game this weekend, and this is the Raiders hosting the Bills. This is a fun matchup. Buffalo has gotten itself together. They're in the hunt as far as the wild card is concerned. The Raiders have a really good shot at the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. Now, I don't know anybody who thought that was going to be the case. Derek Carr's been tremendous. Jim, I thought the Raiders really showed me something on Sunday. I wasn't involved in the game at all. And they're up big. Looks like they're going to coast. 24-7 lead. They gave up 25 points in a row to Carolina, fall behind 32-24, and it looks like, boy, that's going to be a tough loss for the Raiders. They come back and win the football game. And you can pick all you want at the faults on the Carolina side. That is still a terrific fourth quarter rally by the Raiders.
And and Derek Carr, I'm very impressed with Derek Carr, and he gets hurt, the pinky problem, and he's tough. He comes back out, he plays, puts a glove on, he plays, and he comes back and leads them back to the win. Carolina's down this year, there's no question. They're not going to have the 15-1 season they had last year, and but they are still a quality football team. So to come back on them and win that after giving up 25 consecutive points, that was remarkable. The problem with this team is defensively, they've
got some problems.
Awful.
Yeah.
The offense you got to love, but 29th in yards, 20th in points, 28th in passing. This is defensive side. 24th against the run. Horrible stats. I mean, there's only 32 teams in the league, and they're right near the bottom on all those categories. Offensively, they're right there. They're the 5th and 4th and 10th rushing. That's all quality stuff. But the defense is, and we do know that defense and rushing the ball generally leads to championships. They don't have that. And they're going to have to.
I agree. I would not pick the Raiders.
They're not going all the way.
I don't think they're going to get to the Super Bowl, but they're a good story right now. Listen, this game, speaking of weak defense, well, they're running into a team that's scoring some points right now.
And a good defense.
And the Bills, 6 of their last 7 games have gone over. So you could be looking at a lot of points this weekend. I have a tendency to think this is going to be a fairly high-scoring game. Buffalo, number 1 in the league in rushing. They don't pass the ball. Actually, their passing stats stink, but they're a run-first team. That's what makes the over a little bit tougher because games get shorter when you're running the football all the time. But the Bills have found a way to score 25.5 points per game. There's nothing wrong with that. That is a well above average figure. Defense, 12th in yards, 13th in points, 11th versus the pass. Taylor's been serviceable. McCoy, when he's been healthy, has been fine. They were good enough to win against the Jaguars. It wasn't a sensational performance, but they don't care. They won the game by 7. They got off the field, and they're heading to Oakland 6-5. It's a bigger game for Buffalo in terms of their playoff hopes than it is for the Raiders, but I'm not sure I want to step in front of the Raiders right now either.
I don't think the Raiders are going to give anything up, but they got a couple teams chasing them. Kansas City is right there, and Denver's right there. They're not giving up on that, and they have to keep playing, and they know it. We talked a little bit about the Raiders. A lot of their wins came on the road. They had to play a whole bunch of games on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Then they had to give up a home game to play in Mexico. Shame on you, NFL. You just don't know how to put scheduling together, and they got it. Changed that.
I think they knew exactly what they were doing. I don't think the NFL likes the Raiders.
They don't like a lot of teams because they send them the, Jacksonville goes to London all the time to play their games. So it's a terrible system, but that's what we have to live with. Listen to this. The Bills on offense, rushing, number 1 in the league. But on passing, I told you there's 32 teams in the league. They're 32nd in the league in passing. So why are they scoring points? So there's a fallacy here when people think that if a team is running the ball, they're not going to score a lot of points. False. Because when you're running the ball, what happens is your defense has to come up and stop the run because otherwise you're on the field all day just defending the run. It changes the way your defense has to play, opens that up for passing, and you can actually do some damage that way. Plus, when you're running the ball and you have time of possession, your defense has a little bit more time to rest. So their defensive stats, 12th in yards, 13th in points, and 11th versus the pass. So when you put it all together, it's a team. It's not one group. It's a team event. So when you're on the field creating all that time of possession, your defense is resting. This is the problem with Kelly out in San Francisco with that fast pace. Their defense is always tired because they're always on the field.
I think I lean to the over in this game. I do think Buffalo's going to run effectively. Oakland's offense has been dynamic. The defense, as you mentioned, is no good.
I agree.
The public's going to be on the over, but I think they might have.
Surprisingly, the game opened 50.
Yeah.
It's down to 49, and other places 48.
Yeah. So some sharp.
I can't understand that.
Well, sharp dollars. Sometimes not so sharp.
Well, the sharps aren't winning this year.
No. Well,
the public's winning.
Maybe they should stop betting the Cleveland Browns. They bet them every week.
I know they do.
Okay.
Well, the value they say the
I
pros,
know
the pros bet
numbers
numbers.
thing.
The pros bet numbers and the average people bet teams. So usually the pros are winning. This year they're not.
No, they're sure not. It's been a very good year for the players. Viewers can get free plays from us right to their cell phone. And, Jim, it's very easy.
Absolutely. Just text the word GAME, G-A-M-E, to 25827. You'll get a free play right now to your cell phone. That's GAME, G-A-M-E, to 25827.
All right, let's continue with some NFL notes, plus a big game with teams fighting for playoff possibilities. Giants and Steelers matching up this weekend. Stay tuned. All right, so let's take a look at a few things around the NFL this week. Actually, let's zero in on the Rams. You wanted to talk about Jeff Fisher going back to the Hard Knocks shows at the beginning of the season. He said we're not a blanking 7-9 team, and I think he was right.
He's
yes,
probably
more like 5-11 or 6-10.
Right.
You brought in some notes on Jeff Fisher,
which I do not have in front of me, but back in the Tennessee days,
I have them.
You have them. Back in the Tennessee days, he had quite a few winning years, but you're going back to 99, 13-3, 2000, 13-3, 2002, 11-5. 2003, 12-4, and then you go to 10-6 in 07, 13-3 in 08. But since then, the most wins he's had, 09, 10, I guess he didn't coach in 11, but he switched teams, I suppose. But he's never had any more than 8, and lately it's been 7, 6, 7. So that was in St. Louis, and now with LA, he's got 4 and 7 going. Most coaches have maybe a 1 or 2 year, possibly 3-year window, especially if they've had a long run of success. But this guy has gone a long way and not gotten fired. And there's firing coaches all the time. Now, granted, he knows the game, and he's had some success, and he's been in Super Bowls, and et cetera, but at what point do you pull the plug and say, hey, we need a new voice out there?
I think the point's going to come after this season. I think there's going to be a change made there.
Jared Goff.
LA fans are not known for their patience.
Well,
they're not. It's a different mentality than the East Coast, where, if the main teams, the big league teams in every sport, doesn't matter which one, if they fail, boy, the talk shows in those cities just absolutely, the fans get very intense. On the West Coast, it's different. They just stop showing up.
Yeah, but
they just stop showing up.
There's a lot more to do on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And they got better weather. They got a lot of professional and college teams and a lot of events. People get outside and do other things. It's a different environment. It's not St. Louis. It's not Houston. It's not Tennessee.
No, and the thing is, it's a lot of the West Coast franchise's success in terms of gate and revenue is based on the pizzazz factor. And if you're not winning, and winning in a style that's makes you the in thing, you don't get much attention on the West Coast. That's just the way it is. And I've lived out here for a lot of years now, so I think I know what I'm talking about, and you have too. It's a completely different mentality. But and I think that's part of the reason that Jeff Fisher maybe survives. But I think maybe even the Rams have to look at this and say we got to make a change. Our honeymoon period is not going to last long. We got to start winning. We got to get more exciting.
They're going to have to pick up some wins between now and the end of the season for somebody to even consider keeping him. At least that's what I believe.
4 and 7, I don't see it. What are they going to? Maybe 6 and 10.
Well, he's got 5 more games to go. So can he pick up 2 or 3 wins?
Possible. Goff's playing pretty well.
Well, he played pretty well against a pretty weak defense last week. Now he's going to New England, and Belichick loves to pick on rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That's going to be a mess. I mean,
it could be. They're going to be 4 and 8 after this
You're
weekend.
not facing the Saints here.
No.
This is a team that knows how to coach. They have defensive players that can screw up the schemes a little bit, messes with the rookies, quarterbacks, reads.
Plus, it's probably not going to. I don't know what the weather forecast is.
Three interceptions he throws.
Could very well be.
Yeah.
Streaking teams in the NFL. Dolphins have won 7 in a row. Woo. Gase is a candidate for Coach of the Year right now. He's doing it with a patchwork offensive line. I don't know how long that's going to hold up, but they are winning football games. The Cowboys have won 10 in a row, and they'll be trying to make it 11 against Minnesota on Thursday night. The team we're going to talk about right now, the Giants, have won 6 in a row, and they're in the underdog role this weekend against Pittsburgh. And I'm going to take the Giants in this game. NFC East teams plus points, I'm in. And this is the best division in football this year. The Eagles have fallen back a little bit, but the Giants, Redskins, and Cowboys, obviously, have proven their mettle to me. I think they're all going to make playoffs. And Pittsburgh's inconsistencies this year, look, this is just not – they're okay. They're not a bad football team, but I don't think they're an upper echelon team this year because the defense just isn't very good. I think you're probably going to get some points in this game, but I think the Giants have an excellent chance to win, and I already took the points.
Well, I don't blame you. The thing is, Dave, I hope you waited for the points because
it's good.
The game went from 4.5 up to 6. So you want to take the Giants.
Couldn't even get to 7.
It is 7 in one place right now. So, I mean, there's a lot of money that have come in on the Steelers, which I quite don't understand because they haven't been consistent.
They're 6 and 5. I know Ben Roethlisberger was out for a while, and I know, it's the Steelers, and they're 6 and 5. This is not a great football team.
They have a prolific offense when you look at the talent that's there, but they're not producing. I mean, 12th in yards, 8th in passing, 18th in rushing, 13th in points. This is not top of the league.
No.
Top third.
They're still scary.
Yeah, they're scary.
I mean,
and Ben is a proven commodity. 2-time Super Bowl. Well, both quarterbacks are 2-time Super Bowl winners. It's at the beginning of the season, we didn't know what was going to happen with the Giants situation. Cruz coming off the injury and all the things going on there, and then the new head coach. We didn't know what was happening there, but I got to be honest with you. They're playing better defense than they had in the past, which is helping a lot because they're not that pretty on the field offensively. They're not doing great things offensively. I mean, they're 21st in yards, 21st in points, 12th in passing, and 31st in rushing. These are bad stats.
They're 7-3. They've got 6 wins in a row. They got a lot of confidence under this coach, and they're making big plays. 8-3 now, yeah. And they're going to be a playoff team.
Well, you should be. They should be a playoff team.
I don't think
unless they
go
go into the tank and lose 4 out of 5.
Look, here's the thing on the Giants. Go back to last year, and how many times were we sitting here the next week taping this show and talking about Tom Coughlin's screwed up clock management? It cost them, 3 wins last year?
Oh, yeah. That was terrible. The first game of the year they blew last year because of that.
Yep.
I'm not a Tomlin fan. I've never thought that Tomlin was a great head coach. And there's some crazy things he does out there. I can say this about a lot of coaches, but I'm not in that situation. Maybe the pressure, but they should know better because it's their profession. And I think there's issues there. Steelers have not performed to the level that they should have. I mean, they struggled they managed the game against Cleveland, but the last time they played them, 6 is just too much. I don't know where the money's coming from on the Steelers here. I don't get it.
Well, whatever. Let them keep on betting it. It's all right with me. That's it. If you want to get free plays each day and a recorded message from our team of Vegas experts, it's a toll-free number, 888-478-9222.
And you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Jim Feist Sports. Feel free to send me a direct message with any questions about Vegas wagering. We'll get back to you.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. We will do it again next week with another edition of Proline.